So, America and Israel are in an existential threat with the Iranian regime, and the road to hell is giving in to the Iranians, and this is what the Iranians are planning for the West, according to this Alistair Crook, paid asset of the Iranians. He's been off to Iran numerous times and is a fifth columnist for Iran. So let's listen to the mouthpiece of the Iranians.
Collapse. And the reverse has happened. What we see is that Iran has got a plan, a deeply laid plan. It has unfolding various phases to this plan, and it is one which envisages not just, if you like, some sort of a new agreement on nuclear things. It envisages absolutely transforming the West Asia and Asia itself through their chokehold on Hormuz in order to crash the petrodollar and deprive the GCC of those excess savings that they have been enjoying since 1974, when we had the first, if you like, the first rise of the great rise in the price of energy. So this is a major strategic ploy that Mushaba has outlined in terms of that, and saying this is what's going to happen. And if you don't agree with, if you don't agree to it, and if you pursue your ultimatum to me that you're going to attack all the energy system of Iran, we will react and we will escalate against all the structures in the Gulf states and in Israel. Not only just their energy, but their all the infrastructure, including water purification structures. And if necessary, we will move from ambiguity to something closer to nuclear deterrence. So it's a very important shift. There's no doubt we're dealing with a new style of leadership. Very important to see this. The statement, which was short, 12 minutes or so, the first part was what you'd expect. It's Nowruz, and it's in Iran, that's a new year. But the second part laid out his ultimatum. And he said there's going to be a new regime across Hormuz, which will be a specialized channel for agreed vessels to pass in that narrow strip between Qesem Island and Larak, and that they will only be allowed to pass if their cargoes were not bought in dollars, but were bought in yuan, and if they pay a fee. And I think several states have already done this, and Pakistan is one, and I think it paid a fee of about $2 million equivalent. But I think, the fee may be something different. They're in the process of sorting this out. Right. And that's the only way. And this means for the Gulf states, either you now have to deal with Iran to get passage through Hormuz, both inward and outward, and secondly, because only Iran can guarantee the security of your vessels passing through the straits.
Here's what President Trump posted about 45 or 50 minutes ago at 7:23 in the morning Eastern Time, Monday, today, March 23rd. I'll read it, and then you tell me how absurd you think this is. I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. Based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue throughout the week, I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Thank you for attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. You're telling us that that's profoundly untrue.
Completely untrue. And just to confirm it, I mean, not only am I saying it from contacts in Iran, but there is a formal statement out by the Iranian government which underlines there have been no direct or indirects, and there are no direct or indirect talks with Mr. Trump. And they don't intend to have any, by the way. It's
well,
quite clear.
why would they? Why would they? If
Exactly.
the two subterfuges that Witkoff and Kushner engaged in June and again in February.
And if there were to be talks, which I very much doubt, I mean, the talks would be on the basis of Iran's demand, the new supreme leader's demands, which he laid out in the statement that I said he just made, which was complete with American military withdrawal and economic withdrawal from the Gulf area, from all of the Gulf, I mean, from West Asia, essentially, and then all sanctions lifted, and with a timeline, 60 days. All sanctions on Iran must be lifted within 60 days, and full compensation for the damage done to be Iran to be paid. Those are the three explicitly said by the supreme leader in this last day or so. So that is the thing. And he says, you know, if that isn't done and you continue to attack us, then there will be extraordinary damage across all spheres in the Gulf states, and you know, electricity will be gone, and then also water will go. I mean, we will go fully. So his escalation, Trump's escalation by saying 48 hours or we're going to knock out all your power plants, has been met by a counter ultimatum that has been issued by the supreme leader and the government of Iran. I mean, the incrementalism that we saw a little bit with his father doesn't seem to be there today. They are looking for a rapid, systematic change of the West Asian situation, of the GCCs. Then saying to the GCCs, you've got to learn to deal with us if you want to do business and you want to continue. And the aim is to undermine and to end the, if you like, the petrodollar and dollar hegemony in the area. And part of their requirements, not listed by the supreme leader on this, is you've got to give up your data centers and all the elements which are connected with the United States. If you want to do business through the Hormuz, you have to get rid of all of these elements, including Microsoft and Amazon, and all these elements that you're using, they have to go too. You have to disabuse yourself, and in such case, then we will secure it. If you want to go for greater security, you better look to China for your security in the future.
Wow.
So this is hell with the Iranian filth, the satanic installation into Islam, dictating to America, the world's #1 superpower, what they can and cannot do when America has the power to wipe Iran off the face of the earth. So this is the road to hell. So all you Americans, you're being pulled into hell by the Iranian filth. So, this piece of filth the Nepo baby, the supreme fuckwit who can't get a hard on and is probably a closeted homosexual. We're not having a go at homosexuals, but probably a closeted homosexual, which is a crime in Iran. This fascist state has dictated terms to the world's leading superpower. And old Nepo baby here, the supreme fuckwit, is telling the US that it's got to leave totally the entire region, lift sanctions and give huge reparations to the Iranian filth, all coming out of the American taxpayers' pockets. So this is the road to hell which America and Israel are following by not doing the only way that the God Emperor dictates, which is nuking Iran into the Stone Age, wiping out its underground bases with nuclear weapons. Remember, you can stick in earth-penetrating H-bombs and wipe out every single buried infrastructure of the Iranians, wiping them from the face of the earth, and then there's no problem to the Gulf states, no problem to the Strait of Hormuz, because Iran's been turned into glass. And this is for you American chummies who haven't got the picture of what Iran has to look like. The end of the world, but instead of the end of the world, it's the end of the world for Iran, where the war is ended within a few hours by the tactical nuclear strikes on everything Iranian and the H-bombs demolishing every underground city of the Iranian filth to wipe it from the face of the earth. The only logical way to fight war. So that's what Iran should look like, totally irradiated with the 93 million dead, or better still, moving, we'll talk about that later, to Chad world, the enemies of the US and Israel. So how does Donald Trump dig himself out of the trap the Iranians have set for him? It's all here. There's a buried Iranian nuke in the Washington area, and I've made sure that it goes off but doesn't go critical, so that can be then used for the reason to wipe out Iran from the face of the earth. You got it on the video, you Americans.
His armchair in Vietnam, and for those of you who don't know me, Tim Riefat is the United Kingdom's leading expert on remote viewing. And all the intelligence agencies have me as the leading expert worldwide on remote viewing. But that, of course, is secret. And the world expert on remote sensing. What's remote sensing? Well, if you read this book, it explains how to Department of Homeland Security, or insecurity now, can any of these imbeciles explain why the Ayatollah has now gone ballistic and said the aim of Iran is to destroy America? And we're on the verge of war. How?
We're there now.
Names a timer wired up to a miniature nuclear.
So, the Iranians have been stupid enough to place a Russian-built weapon in the US, and of course it goes off, but I make sure it goes subcritical, and then America can wipe Iran off the face of the earth. End of story. Job done. So the only successful conclusion to the Iran war is Iran nuked into the Stone Age, its population destroyed, not all destroyed because we want to ferry huge numbers of radioactive Iranians into Turkey and into the gut, the soft parts of the new Soviet Union ruled by the dictator Putin to collapse Russia as well. So you can see there's no unhappy ending to this, but all we need is for Trump to nuke Iran and wipe it from the face of the earth. That's the only solution. Otherwise, America will have to flee the Middle East and give reparations and leave the Gulf states to the tender mercies of the Iranian filth. So as you can see, there are no choices for the Americans, and luckily, thanks to my remote viewing and remote sensing, I've deactivated the Iranian nuclear weapon that blackmailed them, and when this Nepo baby closeted homo who can't get it up, the supreme fuckwit detonates it, it won't go off properly, but will just be a dirty bomb and will allow Trump to turn Iran into what it should be, a real-life version of Fallout. The only roadblock to what needs to be done to Iran are the Russian filth, the lowest form of scum, vermin. The only thing they're good at is killing their own people under Stalin, the worst war criminal in world history, even beating Hitler, and anyone that gets in their way, as we see with Nazi Germany and now the Ukrainians. Here's how they treat their own people. Now, we talked about the Russian filth that wipe out mankind with their death hand device that launches all their nuclear weapons if a nuke weapon goes off in Russia, which is a certainty because the Iranians will detonate one or the Israelis will, or both will, so the human race is dead. Now let's look at the filth that are the Russians and how they treat their own. Stripped, electrocuted and forced to fight each other to the death on camera, new evidence shows how Putin's commanders are torturing their own men. So these are the lowest form of filth, the orcs, the Trollocs from the Wheel of Time. Graphic evidence. I know my cameraman doesn't agree because he's in a train with me and he loves the Russian infestation in a train. Every day he says, I'm so glad that Natrang is full of Russians and they're so gloriously fat and ugly, it makes me feel good. They truly are vermin and electrocuting their own troops, denying them food, but they're not short of food. Through mud, tying them naked to trees in sub-zero temperatures and even making them fight to the death. Other footage shows injured soldiers on crutches being sent back to the front line. In separate clips, troops sheltering in Ukrainian dugouts film themselves surviving on stolen potatoes because their own army has not supplied them with food. So, what? But Putin's worth 200 billion, so don't worry. The end of humanity is nigh because these scum have decided to explode all the nuclear weapons on America and Europe if a nuclear weapon goes off in their country, which will definitely go off because of the war against Iran. So here's more images of the Russians abusing their own people. So this Russian filth is the end of mankind. and shows why the human race needs to die. Because if you've got Russians, you need to get them off. And if you have to get the whole human race to get them off, well, so be it.
Подали немножко ведро, блядь, и такая хуйня бывает, палку, сука, сломали. Ой, блядь, головушка. Болеть еще будете? Нет! Рыбу! Нет! Вот вы давайте! Нет! А вот это две наши собачки.
I'll tell you what, that's an Adonis of the Russians. You want to see that training? So the Russian filth, the lowest form of vermin,
Here's my rundown.
they're only good at
of human civilization.
their own people or anyone that gets in their way have told the Americans if they nuke Iran, then Russia will give nuclear weapons to Iran. So I'm just telling the Russian filth, please, please give nuclear weapons to Iran, because I want to see the whole planet die, because I sucked up the death force and all the soul life from the human race thanks to the human filth of Russia, who are the self-suicide template for all mankind. Their death hand mechanism means that the Russians have all uplined to their leadership that have agreed to suicide, and as I explained in the last video, that allowed me to suck out all the light of humanity and rapture myself and block all Christians from rapturing, so only I raptured. So please, please, Kremlin, supply nuclear weapons and give the threat of nuclear weapons to the Americans and Israelis, because Israel will nuke Iran. It's a done deal, and we just need to convince Donald Trump to nuke Iran and use H-bombs on all the underground cities to wipe Iran from the face of the earth. And thankfully we've got the Iranian-placed, Russian-built nuclear weapon in Washington that will misfire, that will give Donald Trump the reason to nuke Iran, cancel the midterms, and jail all the fifth columnists. And Russia warned Scott Ritter, one of their fifth columnists, to flee America. So guess where Scott Ritter is, cameraman? No idea, cameraman. He's a Russian fifth columnist, so where has he flown to?
He hasn't gone to Russia.
He's gone to Russia. Scott Ritter's in Russia, because he's got the warning that the hammer's about to drop. So if you're a fifth columnist in America, you need to go into the camps where traitors like you can be treated the way Russians would treat their own population, as on the previous video. So this whole plan is to destroy the petrodollar and to make the dollar worthless, so all the Americans get hyperinflation like the Weimar Republic. And to make things worse, we've got this Chinese guru that's just sprung out of nothing. We got this Professor Jiang whatever, who's taken the piss out of the Americans, saying what happens to your money if the petrodollar system breaks. 28 minutes and 13 seconds, I can synopsize that to you're fucked. You Americans won't be able to buy fuck all, and you'll be a third world country infested by 50 million invaders, and there'll be anarchy and civil war all across America as the economy has gone into the Weimar Republic. And if you don't understand the Weimar Republic, what the Iranians are going to do to you, because it's not our war, it's Trump's war, no, it is your war, This is what you're going to be facing in America. So, if you Americans don't think this war in Iran must be won by America and brave little Israel, you're a moron, because everything in yuan and the petrodollar collapse means what happened in Weimar Germany is going to happen to you in America, and you've got 50 million invaders, blood-sucking, worthless scum doing nothing but on benefit, so you're going to have civil war. So, if you Americans, if Iran isn't nuked in the Stone Age, this is going to happen to you.
And a goods shortage means that prices are rising like crazy. 1923, hyperinflation. When prices rise, this is known as inflation. This means that people need more money to be able to buy the things they need. However, in Germany, government decisions are only making the inflation they're experiencing worse. The problem the government are facing is that between 1919 and 1923, their revenue is only a quarter of what they need. They need money to be able to pay their debts, but unemployment and failing factories mean that they're getting less tax money. Therefore, the government resort to printing more money. In 1923, the government has 300 paper mills and 2,000 printing shops dedicated to printing more banknotes. Initially, this makes it easier to pay reparations. However, overall, this only makes the inflation worse. It creates a...
Now, reparations to Iran. So you Americans will be paying reparations to Iran if you don't do what the God Emperor shows you to do, which is nuke Iran into the Stone Age. The only thing you do to the supreme fuckwit and his race of scum is to nuke them into the Stone Age. Otherwise, I've warned you, this is going to happen to you in America.
The more money gets printed, and the more money gets printed, the more prices rise. By 1923, prices are huge. A loaf of bread, which would have cost 1 mark in 1919, costs 100 marks in 1922, and by 1923 costs 200 billion marks. This extreme form of inflation is known as hyperinflation. Normal living in Germany becomes impossible. People had to carry bundles of money in baskets and even wheelbarrows. Many workers are getting paid twice a day so they can rush out to the shops to buy goods before prices rise again. Some shops are even refusing to take money at all and are going for a system of swapping things. Imports dry up because German marks become worthless against other currencies, and so foreign suppliers start refusing to accept German marks. People who have savings, such as in bank accounts or pensions, watch them become worthless. This means the middle classes are the hardest hit, as they are the most likely to have savings stored in such a way. There are, however, some people who benefit. People with loans find that the value of the money they owe back has gone down massively. Other people hoard goods and then sell them for a big profit as prices go up. Foreign visitors also benefit, as the value of their own currency goes up against the German mark, so they can buy much more with their money. Unsurprisingly, the Germans heavily resent.
This will be people with the yuan, so the Chinese won't need to invade you. They simply just buy up America after Trump takes the Iranian penis up his anus and accepts all the conditions that Alistair Crook, the Iranian fifth colonist who's been there multiple times and seen the supreme leader, has stated to you on Judge Napolitano, another fifth colonist who is destroying America from within. So if you Americans didn't realise how fucked you are by this war, if it doesn't go the way of Israel and America, you're seeing the way it goes. Your dollar will be worthless and yuan will buy up all of America. So you'll be a Chinese coolie, but instead of being a Chinese coolie, you'll be an American coolie.
After August 1923, the new Chancellor, Gustav Stresemann, is able to find a solution to hyperinflation.
So, how can Israel and America survive this road to hell, which they're on, well, they've got to follow the Tim Refat plan. We know that there's an Iranian-placed, Russian-built nuclear weapon in Washington. It goes off, but doesn't go off, thanks to Tim Refat, who of course is lauded for stopping it, and then Iran is nuked into the Stone Age. All its underground cities with missiles and drones are wiped from the face of the earth by earth-penetrating H-bombs, and we get this happening to the enemies of Israel and America. We get all of the irradiated Iranian filth fleeing to Turkey to collapse Turkey, fleeing to Europe to collapse Europe, and fleeing upwards into the underbelly of Russia, into all of the Muslim states of the North Caucasus, to then collapse Russia from the Chad world, human weapon systems of radioactive, infested Iranian filth from the devastated Iran. So it's a win-win-win situation.
Light particles called photons at a screen with two slits, you'd expect to see two strips to correspond with the two slits. Instead, we see a pattern of light and dark bands. This suggests that light behaves like waves that pass through both slits simultaneously, interfering with each other to create the pattern on the second screen. However, when scientists used a measuring device to observe the slit that each photon passed through, the interference pattern disappeared and two strips appeared. The act of observing which slit it went through changed the behavior of the photons. No one knows why observing a particle causes its behavior to change.
So the dual slit experiment shows that reality runs in tandem. There is the reality we're in, but there's the reality that needs to be with the reality we're in order to make up reality. So there are two realities intertwined. One's real, the other one's the shadow reality. And in this case, we've got the reality where the Americans give up and give Iran reparations and the Gulf and lift sanctions and get hyperinflation, and the Chinese with their yuan buy up all America, and you Americans become Chinese coolies, which doesn't happen because the Israelis won't have it. So this is a pipe dream. The Israelis will, of course, attack Iran no matter what. It's an existential threat to Israel, and will drop nukes on Iran. Russia will come to the rescue, and Israel will detonate their nuclear weapons all across Russia, and we get the dead hand detonated, wiping out the human race. So, all of you in China who think that you're going to take over the world, you're not. The Russians are about to pull you off, because the Israelis will never give up on Iranian domination and will nuke Iran no matter what. The Russians always come to the aid of the Iranians, and the Israelis always detonate their embedded nuclear weapons in Russia to wipe out Moscow, etc., St. Petersburg, and the dead hand mechanism then launches, and America wipes out Russia as Russia wipes out the US. But of course the Americans launch on China as well, because that's part of their system. So with all the cobalt-60 in the batteries, the human race dies. So the grand plan of Iran and its backers to destroy America always fails because of Israel. So you Iranian backers, you're all going to die thanks to the Russian filth, the lowest form of scum, and the dead hand mechanism. I'm just gloating by explaining that this is inevitable. With a double slit experiment, you've always got another reality that has to be synced with it, and it's part of how the world works, because it's a soliton. You've got the upper sheet and the lower sheet, so there's always an alternative. So we've talked about the Elohim, the interdimensional scum that parasitize the source to try and take over as the source, and they of course need Neos to solve the alignment problem. They were trying to assassinate me. They paid the local Vietnamese police station to arrest me for carrying knives, so I'll be beaten to death by the Russian filth, instead of which the Vietnamese state security closed down that local police station forever. And I wander around with even bigger, well, not knives anymore, are they? They're fucking enormous. But hours later, Charlie Kirk paid the price, because remember, someone has to pay the price. So Charlie Kirk, this Zionist piece of filth, was slaughtered like a dog, and was the Neo or anti-Neo downloading the Rothschild curse. Because remember, he was married to a Rothschild, or someone related to the Rothschilds. Erica Kirk, Jewish on both sides, related to the Rothschilds. He had been infested with Rothschild energy by breeding children with Erica Kirk. Then when he was slaughtered, the Elohim, instead of having to use me, used him for the alignment problem, for the Neo, the Jesus. So they solved their alignment problem, going into chaos, with them killing one of their own to solve the problem. So remember, the Rothschilds said they crushed me like a flea, and my ramblings would have no effect on reality. Instead of which, of their own free will, their Jesus, the second coming, was them accepting the curse into themselves to solve their alignment problem, where they were crushed like fleas, and the ramblings had no effect on reality. So you can see that Charlie Kirk was the inception of World War III, and everything Elohimic was destroyed, crushed like fleas, its ramblings had no effect on reality, because they tried to forcibly Neo me, and instead of which, because I'm the source, they were sourced, so one can think of the second coming of Jesus, Charlie Kirk, as totally omega hellizing the Elohim. You won't understand it unless you watch previous videos, but you can see everything centers on Charlie Kirk, and Charlie Kirk was the inceptor of the destruction of America with its Christian Zionists, and the Rothschild country of Israel was destroyed by the killing of Charlie Kirk, because the Elohim were forced to accept, they wanted me to be Neo, instead of which they got Charlie Kirk to be Neo for them, and downloaded the curse of the Rothschilds, which are Elohim avatars, into themselves. All explained fully on the forum. If you're not on the forum, then fuck off. And I'm not giving free info to Jeremiah Schwartz and his ilk, the CIA's installation that was supposed to take over from me. That's not very well, that's a cameraman. So with precognitive remote viewing, if you're the best at it, you simply collapse the future before it becomes the past to control everything. Now, all of you who wish to be able to do this, get a US remote viewing course, because we know it's not used by the CIA to fly trap you and implant you and get you to be part of the zombies in the coffin program. That could never happen, could it? Anyway, if you're the ultimate precognitive remote viewer, you can simply be ahead of the time stream of not only humans but the aliens, so that you collapse reality. And if you're the Silor, you simply go to before the Big Bang, control the quantum fluctuation so that the entire universe is controlled by you. That, of course, is not taught in US remote viewing courses. You know, you just want to ask, can I buy that course for me? Thank you. Anyway, every intelligence service knows I'm the bee's knees and I control all reality. And what I've done is to collapse the quantum wave function from the inception of the Big Bang, so that Russia, the filth of the Russian garbage, they're only good for one thing: themselves or anyone that gets in their way, wipe out the human race, which of course gives me the death force, which allows all of my magic to become 100%, so the entire human race is killed because of the Russian filth. And we already know that the Russians are totally soulless because of uploading of the death of the human race. And we know that all Russians are suicidal because they're upline to Putin and his death hand mechanism. So they've agreed to sign over their souls to become suicidal. And we'll explain why. That means that they've got no light. So you look around the tram with the hordes of Russian filth wandering about, and they truly are grotesque. Anyone who says Russian women are attractive hasn't seen the scum in the tram. And the males are, well, they make orcs look like Adonis. Russian scum. And all of them are soulless. So the 86 rapture has worked, and all of the suicidal have been hellized and the light from their souls taken, so the entire Russian race has been death forced and the light from their souls gone, so they're all in Omega Hell, which explains why, if you're in my MP3s, all of the hell I describe in the Russian hospital number 23, where you torture them, drive them mad, and reboot them to higher torture levels, is all Russian, because the core of Omega Hell is Russian, because the Russians are the human race that agreed to suicide and killed off the rest of the human race. So you need the Death Force vampire, and there's a new soul sucking vampire, and we've got at least 200,000 Russians dead already, and the rest of the human race dead because of the Russians. So these services are a must-have if you, like me, wish to rapture and make the best out of Armageddon. In part 2, we'll talk about, remember, all reality is binary because of the dual slit experiment. Explain that, and it's solitonic. So instead of the human race dying from the Russian filth and their dead hand mechanism, where the Russians tried to protect Iran, and of course Israel nuked Iran, and the Russians butted in and then got embedded nuclear weapons, detonate all across Russia, and the dead hand mechanism fires off and kills off humanity. we sacrifice Iran and the Russians do what they should do, which is bend over and to take Assad's penis up their anus and say thank you because we're Russian filth, and then lick it clean, to survive soulless shells in the Klebothic realm. We'll be talking about that too, but this alternate reality where the Iranian-placed, Russian-built nuke fails to detonate because of me, and the great President Donald Trump, saviour of the world, annihilates the Iranian filth with total nuclear war, turning the Iranians to glass, and the Iranian radioactive weapon systems destroy Turkey and Russia via their underbelly. A win-win-win for a greater Israel is part 2 of my very innocuous dissertation about Armageddon and the apocalypse.